So, a single executive order from the White House recently sent this huge shockwave through the lives of thousands of skilled professionals, especially from India. But this wasn't just about a policy change, no. It was about the chaos and the fear that came with it. We're going to break down not just what happened, but why all that confusion might have been the entire point. And this quote from Sudhanshu Kaushik, it really gets to the heart of it, right? The fear wasn't just that the policy was badly communicated. It was that the confusion itself was the goal, that a very deliberate and very chilling message was being sent.
So, how exactly does one order create so much turmoil? Well, it all started with this critical gap in information, a total vacuum that, was just instantly filled with fear.
So get this, the order gets signed, and then crickets. For 18 critical hours, there was complete silence from the White House. No clarification, no details, nothing. And into that silence rushed just widespread panic. And when the clarification finally came, it wasn't some official press conference. Nope, it was a single post on X. And the result of that 18-hour gap, just massive, widespread hysteria. And look, we're not talking about just a few confused people here. This shook the entire ecosystem, the visa holders, their families, and even the immigration lawyers who had absolutely no answers for their terrified clients. Okay, so while we could talk about the economic impact, and it is significant, the real story here, the one that got buried under all the political noise, is the profound human cost. Yeah, it's so easy to get lost in the big numbers, right? Billions in taxes, trillions in economic output. But the argument here is that you've got to look past the spreadsheets to see the real damage, the disruption to families, to lives that were just thrown into limbo overnight. And the fear, it was immediate. It was gut-wrenching. You had people literally on planes, maybe flying home to see family or for an emergency, who suddenly had no clue if they'd be allowed back into the country. Out of sheer terror, some of them actually got off their flights. I mean, can you even imagine? This uncertainty forced people into these absolutely impossible situations. For years, H-1B holders have had to make this gut-wrenching choice. Do I fly home for my parents' funeral and risk not being allowed back? This new order just took that existing fear and amplified it tenfold. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this really deep psychological impact. It's the sudden, stark realization that you simply are not welcome. The feeling that your whole life, your family's future, it could just be ripped away whenever someone in power decides. So you have to ask, right? If the policy hurts the economy, if it hurts the tech industry that relies on these workers, who was it actually for? Well, the answer, it seems, isn't economic at all. It's political. And this really lays out the central conflict. On one side, you have big tech and other huge industries screaming that they want and need these skilled workers for innovation and growth. And on the other, the policy seems specifically designed to appease a really vocal political base that's demanding immigration restrictions, no matter what the economic fallout is. And the counterargument to that is pretty simple. This isn't a zero-sum game. This idea that for an immigrant to win, an American has to lose, that's just a false choice. The perspective here is that when skilled immigrants thrive, America thrives right along with them. Which brings us to what might be the most important takeaway from this whole thing. You see, even after that clarification finally dropped on X, the real damage was already done. The casualty here wasn't just a visa category. It was trust itself. And that is the real long-term consequence. Policies can be changed, they can be reversed, but how do you rebuild faith in a system that can be turned against you just like that, overnight? That seed of doubt, that mistrust in America's stability, well, it's been planted. So what's the fallout going to look like down the road? Well, for one, the world's top talent is going to start looking elsewhere. I mean, why risk the US when Canada or the UK are offering more stability? And then there's the huge potential shock to American universities, which really rely on international students who plan to work here after they graduate. And for those students, their entire dream could come down to this one single number, $100,000. That's the potential new fee a company might have to pay just to hire a recent foreign graduate. For most employers, that's an impossible cost. It basically makes the best and brightest who, by the way, were educated right here in the US, pretty much unemployable. And all of this leaves us with one final really big question. For generations, the whole idea of the American dream was built on a promise of stability and opportunity. But if that stability can just disappear, with the stroke of a pen, is the dream still worth the risk for the best and brightest around the world? That's the question America now has to answer for itself.